Hampshire fought back admirably on the second day of their LV County Championship match with Gloucestershire in Bristol, and they now have the edge after batting extremely positively, most notably James Vince, who struck a superb century. With debutant Will Tavares making 135 not out, Gloucestershire had scored 292 for 5 on day one, but they then lost their last 5 wickets in just 31 balls on the second morning. It all went awry after only 3 deliveries when Cameron Herring was legged before to James Tomlinson. Kyle Abbott then had Tom Smith held down the leg side by Adam Wheater, who claimed 5 catches behind the stumps for the first time in his career. 3 balls later, James Fuller left a ball from Abbott alone, only for it to rip out his off stump. A third in 7 balls fell in the next over when Tomlinson also struck the stumps to remove David Payne for a duck, and Tavares' extraordinary debut innings came to an end 3 balls after that. He'd made an exemplary 139 when he edged Abbott to Liam Dawson, the South African starting off his county career with figures of 5 for 67. From 289 for 4 at one stage, Gloucestershire had been bowled out for 304, Tomlinson also taking 4 for 68, and such a collapse would certainly have boosted Hampshire's confidence when they came out to bat in the form of Jimmy Adams and Michael Carberry. It was a stunning morning in Bristol, and don't mention this to the Gloucestershire tale, it also looked ideal to be batting in. Neither Adams nor Carberry had any difficulties against the new ball. Carberry made a couple of low scores in the draw with Worcestershire last week, but as this pick-up for 6 showed, he was just beginning to find his form when he drove at and edged a ball from Payne behind. The look of disappointment may have been at the decision, or just at the fact that he got out after making an encouraging start in scoring 27. Oddly, it had been a bowler's morning, and the Gloucestershire attack still had another 45 minutes of the morning to keep themselves on top in this game. That they were unable to do, as Liam Dawson and Adams put the frenetic events of the first hour or so behind them by batting with authority, picking off their boundaries with relative ease. By the time the players sat down for lunch, it was clear which side would have enjoyed their food the most. But Gloucestershire were quickly out of the blocks on the restart. Will Gidman won an LBW appeal against Dawson, who was gone for 22. While Adams on 41 edged Matt Taylor behind to go with his side on 98 for 3. Thus far, this has been a game where either wickets have fallen in clusters or there's been a long time without one at all. Gloucestershire now had to wait for 23 overs for their next one, overs from which Will Smith and Vince added 111 runs at a very good rate. Smith got going with a couple of well-placed boundaries before Vince showed his class with some superb stroke play. He had a good season last year, scoring 1,100 runs at an average of 61 in the LV County Championship. He got a nod from those at the top of the game, people who will be watching the 23-year-old very closely this term. It seems remarkable that Vince is still only 23, as he seems to have been around forever at Hampshire, a county he made his debut for as an 18-year-old. He should get even better with age, and that's something that may worry a few bowling attacks in the years to come. He looked in very good touch here with shots all around the wicket as he and Smith once again started to bat their side on top. Vince's 50 came off his 74th delivery, and for those he'd struck 9 fours to see his side past 200 inside 50 overs. He and Smith were both batting very positively, and the Gloucesters needed the tide to turn rather quickly in order to once more restore parity in this contest. And that's just what they did once that Smith drove Will Gidman to Tavares, who held on to a stunner to depart for 41 with a total at 209 for 4. That became 210 for 5 in the next over when Joe Gatting drove loosely at Taylor to offer Michael Klinger a simple enough catch. And it was 3 successive overs for the home side as Gidman struck again by bowling Sean Irvine for a duck via the inside edge. At 213 for 6, there was very little to choose between these two sides, but it was the visitors who finished the day the stronger, Vince continuing his form by slapping Smith for a 6. Vince played the spinner very well, but he was equally assured against the pacemen. Whenever one of the Gloucestershire attack dared to drop the ball in short, Vince was onto it in a flash, pulling with power and timing to the boundary as he moved through the numbers with a fair amount of ease. With so many county players needing to stand up for attention at the start of this all-important summer, Vince was attracting some headlines with his play and his approach. Once in, he always looked as if he would go on, and his 100 duly arrived in the evening. A push to mid-on took him there off his 148th delivery, an innings containing 14 fours and a 6. It was a fantastic display from Vince, and just the start he would have been looking for, no doubt. And he received some great support from Wheater, who's having a fine match himself. He worked the ball around with some skill as the 7th wicket partnership began to build so well that Hampshire soon found themselves in the lead, something they could not have expected at the start of this day. And with these two playing shots like these, those runs were continuing to come at a very good lick. Wheater's invention took him to a 64-ball half-century, that being his 7th 4. Hampshire were by now closing in on 350, and they were only in the 77th over. Reaching 400 inside 110 overs for maximum batting bonus points was clearly not going to be a problem as long as Hampshire weren't bowled out, and there seemed to be no chance of that as the sun lowered itself in the sky. The partnership between these two rattled along to 153, which was made in just 28 overs. So Gloucestershire would have been relieved that the second new ball was due, and Will Gidman needed only 4 deliveries with it to finally stop the onslaught. Vince 44 when he was LBW. But if the home side thought that was the end of the free scoring, they were mistaken. Matt Coles came down the wicket and planted Gidman over the ropes, while Wheater stood in the crease and delivered with aplomb. Who needs foot movement if you can see the ball as if it was the size of Wales? It was now more akin to a T20 game the way these two were taking on the bowling, as 43 runs were smashed in only 4 overs. It was a rare attempted defensive shot which brought about the end of Cole's cameo. He'd struck 25 off just 14 deliveries. He was followed back to the pavilion next ball by the man who passed him coming out. Abbott legged before to Taylor, who now had 4 wickets to his name for the first time in his career. Wheater still wasn't done though, and another audacious stroke took him into the 80s by the time that stumps were drawn. It was some knock. And it's one which has seen his side move quickly, 113 runs ahead with 1 wicket left in the bank. Hampshire have scored 417 for 9 at 4 3/4 runs per over, which means that this game has moved on at a pace, and a positive result is a near certainty now.